We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday, talking about, as you see on the screen, Child Sex Abuse Prevention Month. And Jill Howlett's with us from Our Kids, along with Rob Kerrigan. He's with the Metro Sex Crimes Unit. He and his task force on the internet, looking where so much of this happens. You know, you with Our Kids have put together this new flyer, and we were talking about it during the last segment about tips for keeping kids safe online. I mean, just think about it. You know, before the internet, I mean, it was just basic stuff. Now, 80 to 90% of the kids have been approached for something online. 80 to 90%. And I'm reading this, and you know, again, I'm not the most tech savvy. My son and the young people I know are far more. But you log onto a site, set your age at 13, and what will happen?
Within minutes, they'll be approached by someone for just to talk or for whatever kind of.
By another 13-year-old?
Most of the time, no.
Yes, that's what I figured.
I mean, in the past, I know I've created fake identities to go online to lure predators that we're investigating, and it doesn't take 30 seconds. If I enter a room as a 13-year-old girl, within minutes, somebody's starting to message me, and within just a very short time in that conversation, they're sending me pictures of their penis or doing that kind of stuff very quickly.
Now, when that occurs, how are you able at that point to pinpoint where that individual is and make the arrest, or what has to happen for you to go get these folks?
Well, at that point, they've committed a crime.
Right. But can you track them?
Yeah, we can track them. It may take a series of subpoenas and a few weeks for us to find a particular location that they're at. So we may keep them online for a while as we chat over a number of days and glean more information from them.
Are they just not very savvy?
Some of them are very savvy, but they think they're anonymous. They think they're hidden. They don't realize all the avenues that we can use to track where they're at and to eventually identify a specific location.
Okay.
It's on the line. I can look like George Clooney online. I can do anything I want and be anybody I want, and I have that kind of veil of anonymity that no one I can feel like I can hide behind.
Sure.
Our suspects are the same way. Luckily, we have some tools that allow us to work to track some of them and eventually catch them.
Now, we talked about some of the apps out there for communicating, and there's so many new ones that come about, it's hard to keep up, but also through the gaming systems, and that's the one where so many of these kids play these games, and they love them, and they like to interact with others that are good players as well, and they play online where they can link now, obviously, and play with someone they don't know.
Correct.
And a lot of times that's legit. You know, you just hook up and you're in a game and you're doing Call of Duty and you're going through an adventure there. But what's happened in some of these cases, they can talk to one another,
They
right?
can talk to one another. They can also ask some very innocuous questions and try to find out information about the child that they're speaking to. They can ask about what school they go to, or if they know Mrs. So-and-so who teaches English. And those are just ways that predators can find out how to contact children. And a lot of times, they'll say, "Hey, it's a snow day. Do you want to get together? Where do you live?" "I live, in Nashville." "We're in Nashville." I'm right around the corner." And then they meet up, and then that's where bad things happen.
Yeah.
And I think online gaming is perfectly acceptable. I think you just have to be very clear with your children about what the rules are when it comes to doing things online with other people.
Right.
And
not sharing personal information.
Correct. And if that means you go in the room with them for 30 minutes every time that they're online and just watching what they're doing just to make sure, and maybe they don't even know what they're doing is inappropriate, and you just have to be that guide for them to help them kind of set their own boundaries.
So is there then a profile to some degree, and I imagine there's all types of victims obviously, but is there a profile of the type of child that may be more susceptible to this? And what I'm thinking is maybe one without much parental interaction for whatever reason, maybe one who's just more of a loner, or maybe a kid who doesn't have many friends, or I don't know, I'm just wondering, is there a profile for a child that may be more easily susceptible to these types of overtures from these folks?
Well, in recent studies, the suspects, looking at interviews of people that have been convicted of crimes involving children, post-conviction studies, asking them why did you target this particular victim? What was it about it? And the main things that they look at are availability and access.
Okay.
It's not about necessarily the looks of the child, or they don't even consider the risk necessarily initially. It's availability and access. If I got a child that's typically home alone, or there's not a whole lot of parental involvement, a lot of them they'll target divorced mother of two, because you got mom's working and you got the kids. Mom may be doing a great job raising the kids as well as she can, but there's a lot of access and a lot of availability for those kids. Our suspects are going to target them because they're the easiest to.
And they figure out that they're a divorced mother of two from communicating with the child, or
a lot of times, or just what kids will post on their own. If I have a Facebook page, I can go through somebody's photos and within a few minutes figure out pretty good idea of if they have siblings, if there's a father in the picture, where they live, what school they go to. You'd be surprised at what kids will post, not even thinking about it, just in the images themselves. And I can link to their friends, and I can go to their friends' profiles and see what their friends are saying. And you can build a kind of a good profile of an individual within just minutes. I do it looking at our suspects. If I can do that kind of background on my suspects, certainly our suspects can do it on our victims.
Sure.
Within minutes.
Have you gone when you've finally been able to track? Are you one of them that goes out and makes the arrest, or once you guys pinpointed to someone else with the task force?
No, we go out and actually make the arrest.
So when you knock on the door and they answer, walk me through it.
Well, normally we're executing search warrants for computers and phones and that kind of stuff. So ours is different than Vice. We don't go out and smash a door in.
Oh no, but do you knock on the door and say, I've got a warrant here, would you please let us in?
Yeah.
And they're just like, for what? And you say, I don't have to tell you, I have a warrant, get out of my way. And you go on in.
They know what they're there for.
Oh, they do know.
As soon as you walk in the door, most of them, they have that look like they've just seen a ghost, and it doesn't take very long before we get into the meat of the matter, and a large percentage of them will talk to us and will give us admissions, because at that point they're caught. We've got the evidence. We're just kind of getting the cherry on top by going into the residence. If I've got a search warrant, I've already developed probable cause to believe that there's evidence in there. Odds are I probably got enough for an arrest warrant at that point, very, very often, or pretty close to it. So once I get in, they already know what we've been looking at, and they don't know exactly what we've got, but they assume that we must have some evidence that.
Oh, you wouldn't have gotten the warrant.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, is there a difference between, say, the purveyors of child pornography, meaning that they have it, they're looking at it, and maybe they're selling it and trading it, which is awful, but maybe are there those that do that but aren't actually touching physical children?
Well, there again, the studies would show.
If you're doing one, you're doing the other?
Not necessarily every time, but a large percentage of them have either engaged in contact offenses on minors prior to their charge of the child porn, or potentially after conviction on the child porn, they're at a higher risk to reoffend and potentially find a minor. It's really all about access and availability again.
Okay.
If I have a fantasy of having sex with a minor, that doesn't stop just because I'm looking at images. That actually reinforces that fantasy more.
Sure it does.
And it makes it even worse. I mean, it
But they're likely then to act on that.
More likely.
I mean, to me, child pornography is horrible and to sell it, but to me, in just my mind just sitting here, it's far worse if I find out some guy just raped a 2-year-old. Okay, that's worse to me than a guy having a picture of that 2-year-old.
We're finding a large overlap, and that's a lot of what this pamphlet that they've developed is we have an overlap of our offenders are not just looking at images; they're also online soliciting minors, and they're looking for a contact offense victim to target. Our victims that are going for services that are reporting stuff, they're also engaged in online activities that put them at a higher risk. So we see in that overlap. That's why we've kind of partnered together. I've worked with Jill since she was in the DA's office as a victim witness person, and I've worked with our kids for the last 15 years as a detective. But we overlap our investigations because part of it's the state law requires it, but for us to work as a team. But it just works better because they're really good at the victim side and the family side of it. We also partner with the Nashville the Children's Alliance that provides counseling for. We talked about the non-offending parents. Sometimes we need those parents to be partners moving forward in the prosecution of those cases, because a lot of times they don't know that abuse has been going on, either physical or sex abuse. So a lot of those services are focused on those non-offending parents and services for those kids moving forward, whether it's follow-up visits for medical stuff, STDs that they may have contracted, that kind of stuff, along with counseling services and all of that. They tend to focus more on the physical exams and that kind of stuff, but then they refer a lot of kids out for continued follow-up.
Yeah.
I deal with the suspect end. I'm really good at going out and getting suspects to talk to me and arresting guys. I'm not as good on the victim end of that.
I see.
We
All
contract
of us
that out to somebody
Sure.
else.
It's nice to have people cover all the bases. You know, I'm just thinking about some, in terms of raising awareness. I have something I want to ask you when we come back in terms of some high-profile cases. You know, we talk about this as much as we do, and it's amazing sometimes how little people really realize this goes on. But every once in a while, something comes along that really puts it in the national consciousness, and we'll talk about Jared right after this. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment. That one.